Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Westin Hotel. I'm Joey Cohn. I'm the general manager of KPLU. I've been at KPLU for 28 years in a variety of different capacities. I was the music director, program director, used to put on fund drives, and for the last year and a half, I've been the general manager. Great to see everybody turn out today. For those that are listening online, we have about 200 people in the room here and another 39 people online. At the front of the room is Stephen Tan. He is the chair of KPLU's Community Advisory Board or Committee. And Matt Martinez is our Director of Content. So the purpose of this meeting, just to let you know, the council meets on a quarterly basis. So we've had this meeting on the calendar for some time. The agenda changed, though, recently for obvious reasons. The purpose of the council is to provide KPLU management with feedback about our programming, our policies, and our service to the community. And this really is their meeting. And I know that we have a lot of people from the community here, but just to let you know, they are here to conduct business. That's the real purpose of this meeting. We're required by the CPB, that's the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, to have a council and to hold meetings on a regular basis. And my role is to listen because the council is here to give me advice, and then I, in turn, will share that advice with Pacific Lutheran University. Before I hand the meeting over to Stephen, we do have to do a quick roll call, and I know that we have 4 members on the line. Peg Ackerman, Lloyd Milton, Carrie Retlin, and Joan Turnow. But let me just do this really fast. Just say here if you are here. Scott Allsmith, Michael Armstrong, Don Arsenault, Jim Burbring, Nancy Carson, Greg Dallaire, Linda Farmer, Stacy Isaacs, Henry Itsumazi, Teresa Julius, JJ, I know you're here. Tracy Korteski, Jim Long, Bob Lovely, isn't he? Lynn Quitlin. I always do that to him, and he still doesn't think it's funny. Sean Richardson, D.T. Rosenoff, Elizabeth Schoenfeld, Fred Seidel, Dave Sturdivant, Stephen's here, Paul Taylor, and Nicholas Woog. Okay, thank you, and here's Stephen.
Okay, thank you, Joey. As Joey mentioned, this is a business meeting for us. We're not accustomed to having any guests, so to have a couple people, 100 people show up is, well, not surprising given the circumstances. I want to thank everyone from the public for coming. I know why you're here. This is a station we all love and care about. And those of us on the council are here to represent you. So I want to reiterate what Joey said about the purpose of the council. A, it is a Corporation for Public Broadcasting requirement that we exist, but I'll read the requirement is that the purpose of our board is to provide a vehicle for effective community input to the station's governing body about station programming, community service, and impact on the community from the station's major policy decisions. That is our mission. We are here to talk about the proposed sale of KPLU to the University of Washington. This is our first meeting since that sale was announced, but I've spoken with and communicated with enough members of the council to have a pretty strong sense of what our general consensus is. I'll note for the record that the council was not consulted either before or during negotiations with the university. We were not advised before the sale was announced to the public. Our role is advisory only, so it's understandable on one level that there was no obligation to consult with us. On the other hand, at least my opinion personally, is that it might have been a good idea to do that. They might have understood the magnitude of the decision that they're making. Our purpose here today is to decide whether to take some kind of action as a council on behalf of the station to serve the interests of you, the listening community. It's important to remember that all that's happened to this point is that Pacific Lutheran University and the University of Washington have signed a letter of intent. This deal is not finalized. They have until December 18th to sign a deal and then to sign a contract, essentially. And then the FCC has the opportunity to evaluate that sale. As I said, I have a strong sense about what the council's consensus of opinion is on this and the concerns that we have. But I don't want to take that for granted. So the bulk of the meeting is going to be to hear from council members individually about their support for or opposition to this transaction and what their concerns are. I'm going to then steer the conversation to what action we can take as a body. What I have in mind is a written appeal to President Thomas Kreis at Pacific Lutheran University and to the Board of Regents, asking them to reconsider. As I said, this is our first opportunity to meet, and this is a very unusual format. I'm used to seeing members of the council when we speak, and I can't do that. We will have some time for public comment. Again, thank you all for coming. Please have faith that we are looking out for your interests. I'm going to carve off as much time as I can to allow for some public comment, but we cannot allow that to consume all our time. There is business for us to conduct today. Okay, I'm going to propose that we allow each member of the council, I'm going to have Joey read the roll, to, in no more than 60 seconds, state their opinion on two subjects. One, whether they are in favor of or opposed to this proposed sale of KPLU to the University of Washington. And then two, what the primary reasons are for that support or that opposition. Because we're limited on time, like I said, I want to limit that to a minute because I think the value of the discussion is going to be just that, a discussion. I have started drafting a letter already, but I want to get the council's input and to a certain extent the public's input as well into what the comments in that letter, what the position asserted in that letter should or should not be. Okay. I want it to be as credible as possible, as forceful as possible, and I want it to be taken seriously. Okay, Joey?
For council members, if you could please just state your name before your comments. Thanks.
My name is Stacy Isaacs, and I apologize for my tardiness. Hopefully I got the two things we're supposed to comment on. I am not in support of the acquisition excuse me, by KUOW, and the other time is for our rationale. Is that correct?
That's right.
I feel concerned that there was not sufficient public due diligence for this. It came about quite suddenly for us as advisory council members, and I don't feel that it is in the best interest of KPLU.
Thank you.
I am Michael Armstrong, a member of the Community Advisory Board. I oppose the sale of the license to KUOW. KPLU has been a valued part of our community with world-renowned jazz and blues programming. They support local artists, support local jazz and students in the schools, have distinguished local news and special programming, and are a very strong part of our community. And I oppose the transfer of the license to KUOW because I fear that those things may be lost.
Rosalie Elgin, I'm here on behalf of my husband Dave. I think it's kind of difficult for us to express our anger and our outrage or disappointment at the proposed sale. We are not in favor of the sale. I'd be glad to express that outrage too, but I understand we have limited time. Like so many KPLU's listeners, the station has just been a huge part of our lives since Dave and I moved here 25 years ago. It's been an outstanding vehicle for local news coverage, local programming, excellent jazz and blues programming. The news and the music staff have proven to be intelligent, articulate, and inspiring to their listeners, all of whom of those staff would be sorely missed. The relatively new, very successful program, Sound Effects, on Saturday morning, I think is just one important example. Bottom line, a valued, substantial, award-winning news operation, including music already in place, will be destroyed. And we feel the competition of two stations is healthy, just as having two newspapers in Seattle was healthy. With the PI as a print outlet, at least there were two robust options. At times controversial, but I think it was good. The Seattle PI for us, our opinion, is no longer an inspiring, newsworthy option. We never turn to it for news coverage, and we would hate to see that same dilution factor happen to radio programming in Seattle.
Hello, my name is Jean Junot. I'm really choosing to talk about some things that I am concerned about with this transition, should it happen. First of all, as far as things I'm very proud of with KPLU, KPLU has a very broad geographic base, and the nature of its programming is not limited to a Seattle mindset. I live in Gig Harbor, Washington. I work in Bremerton, Washington. It is very valuable to me that the station covers those areas with the same focus that they do Seattle. I'm also really proud of the original programming that KPLU offers. The John Kessler, all blues programming, Ken Wiley, Art of Jazz, Sound Effect, as was just mentioned, Aaron Hennessy and Gabriel Spitzer, and the phenomenal job they did of creating a program that came to such quality from scratch. I'm worried about the health of those kinds of original programs. The School of Jazz programming that we do in the community involving high schools and the guest student DJ is important as well. And Mary Dunaway is to be immensely congratulated on the kind of intimate and personal fundraising of all things that can be intimate and personal on a radio station. And our pledge drive was, what, less than 3 days this last time around? Because members of KPLU don't mind paying for the service, and my concern is that intimacy will be lost. My other concerns are just geographic coverage. Is the signal going to reach me? If I don't get NPR news, what am I going to do about that? I may get blues and jazz, but I don't get maybe the news. In Oregon, reduced focus on Seattle news, loss of KPLU excellence in programming, and news staff, and the loss of the opportunity for that original program and the ideas. These are the things that I am most concerned about.
I'm Tracy Koretsky. I oppose the sale. What makes KPLU truly a community organization to me is the support of future musicians through the School of Jazz and contemporary musicians through the studio program. My fear is that if it loses NPR, it loses that funding base, and programs like that go away. Obviously, people listen to NPR on KPLU. That's why all the money comes in that time. Those times, or a lot of the money comes in. If we want to, I think that we might have some assurance that the jazz programming would remain as is, but when it stops penciling out, I think it will it'll diminish and become less than the vital organization that it is that makes Seattle an exceptional jazz city.
I'm Shawn Richardson. I don't have a prepared statement, but just kind of off the cuff. I've been a member of KPLU, goodness, since I moved out here about 16 years ago, and I've got a husband right now who's at Santa Clara Law School, so Abe and Mr. Kessler and whatnot don't realize they have dinner with me almost every night. But don't tell my husband. I am opposed to this. I think for a fact that we're supposed to be a requirement, that we were basically ignored and blown off, doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think the fact that neither group has been able to come out and articulate to the community at large why this is a good idea is a little scary. Now, maybe they've got some ideas and they're just not telling us, but I think at this point they owe us some explanation of what's going on. We have one of the best, thank you. We have one of the best blues, jazz, and news stations in the country. These are some fantastic people, and it's the people I'm worried about. Again, I spend a lot of my day listening with these folks, and I want them to be around, and I want them to be around for a long time. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Allsmith, and I've been a member of this committee since its inception, and I've always enjoyed the passion that my fellow committee members had for this, and I too oppose this sale. I think we have worked very hard in listener-supported radio, and I have to say, just looking out at all of you, this is really gratifying. Our committee is just growing enormously now by your presence here. So thank you for your interest and your support and your passion for this. Two things. I travel for business almost every week. I stream KPLU wherever I am because it allows me to stay in touch with home. And it also gives me variety. So depending on what time zone I am, I could wake up to Jazz 24 as part of the stream, or I could wake up to any of the other programs that I listen to. But I always feel like it's a part of Seattle with me. And as you all know, Seattle is a very diverse community, and there's a little bit of something for everybody in here. And I would hate to lose that by going to an all-news format and then having an all-jazz format someplace else. Something will lose in that transaction. So for that reason, I oppose it. I encourage all of you to stay active. The other thing I wanted just to mention is that in working with Joey and his team, fundraising has never come easy, but for this group, this radio station seems to have found the secret formula to that, and all of you have voted with your dollars. I think you too can vote with your dollars for this transaction to fail. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lynn Quitzlin, and first of all, I want to say how moving it is to see this kind of turnout in the middle of a Monday afternoon. I am opposed of the sale of KPLU to the University of Washington. Over the past 49 years, KPLU listeners have made it one of the most fiscally sound public radio stations in the United States through their generous financial support. The programs created by the talented KPLU staff, so passionately supported by its listeners, would be a deep and irreplaceable loss to the listening community here and around the globe. I also see danger in losing another independent news resource for the Pacific Northwest should this transaction move forward.
My name is Fred Seidel. I'd like to apologize. I dressed for radio today. When the sale was announced, I sat down and made a list of all the things that I was concerned about, one being the loss of the local news, one being the loss of the local programming, sound effect primarily. The local jazz activities, School of Jazz, Jim Wilkie, Ken Wiley, the studio sessions are going to be probably gone because from what the press releases say, the UW's going to run it out of a Warren up in the U District with a big tape recorder and a computer. We'll end up with music that'll sound pre-programmed, losing the context that's provided by local hosts. And I've also been listening to KUOW since the sale was announced, and I would rate it a B. British and boring. Then I sat down and wrote down what I thought could be gained by the sale and found that those could be listed or counted on the fingers of one foot. Consequently, I am not in favor of the sale.
And how do you follow that? My name is Linda Farmer. I'm very much opposed to this sale. When I first heard about the news, I cried. I'm heartbroken. It's like losing a trusted friend. I've been listening to KPLU for over 20 years. In fact, I used to work at Pacific Lutheran University and sat through the fund drives. I answered the phones. I've been a sustaining member for years. I'm also a Husky, and I do listen to KUOW, and I'd rate them a little higher than that, but I'm a sustaining member of KPLU for a reason. And as a former reporter, my main concern is the loss of a top-notch news organization that isn't Seattle-focused. Let's hear it. I'm extremely disappointed that this happened without any public input. It absolutely blew me away. I am, again, heartbroken for the employees and how this came down. I really want to thank you for showing up today and for your passion. Those of us on the board are certainly passionate. I know the employers are passionate as well. Thank you.
This is Joey Cohn again. Before I hand the mic back over to Stephen, I just want to take a quick moment to just thank the council, and just to let you know, the show Sound Effect. I mean, Aaron Hennessy worked with the council, and so many great ideas came out of what they told us they wanted out of that show. Extremely valuable to us. Also, soon we'll have some jazz research findings. We did a big jazz research study. The council was instrumental, no pun intended, instrumental on helping us to frame and discover what we wanted to find out from the jazz listener. And third, they've been extremely generous with us in fundraising. They've had a couple of big challenges that they have collectively put together for fundraising. So please thank the council with me.
Before we move on, I wanted to read some more comments from CAC members who are on the phone and have sent their comments through chat. Peg Achterman is against the sale. We need the greatest number of news outlets in the community and as we can get, and this move will cut one of the best in the region. Jim Long, I'm generally opposed to the sale. I believe the current combination of news, local, state, national, international, and jazz programming is in the best interests of the Pacific Northwest community. Lloyd Milton says, opposed to the sale, loss of another news source. KPLU is a distinct station with its own world-renowned jazz blues programming. Loss of jazz programming in Victoria through the loss of KVIX to news, inevitable job losses. If PLU insists on divesting the station, spin it off to a new public foundation similar to WNYC. And those are the CAC comments from online.
I'm going to add my own personal comments. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your opinions. I'm going to try not to duplicate what other people have said. I think maybe the value here would be to express my concern over some of the justifications for this that have been offered. One, that we will get stronger programming both for news and jazz. I don't think that anyone believes that that will actually be true. I think that position ignores the benefit of having alternative news outlets, and it ignores the fact that I think Joey and his team have built the best public radio news network in this region. I also want to address the suggestion that in some way KPLU is struggling. That is untrue. just had the best year that we've had in terms of fundraising. Except for years in which there's been a capital campaign, there has never been stronger financial support for this station. Listenership is also at an all-time high. Combined on-air and online listenership has reached 400,000 weekly. That's up from 360,000 just 3 years ago.
And Matt Martinez just updated those numbers today, and so our total audience just this last week, and last week online, combined with the latest ratings, 438,000. Yes.
I've also heard suggestions that in some way this station is a financial liability to the university. When you consider what the actual cash contribution from the university to this station is, that cannot be taken seriously. And then finally, I have heard that PLU sees this, as a wasting asset, an asset that's decreasing in value, but also that it is concerned that it is essentially donating $1.5 million a year. That's the value of the space that it leases to the station in Tacoma. I think that argument ignores the fact that that building was built through the support of members of this listening community. Now, finally, I want to express personally, and I think on behalf of the council, we have had the privilege to work with this team. It is as committed a team of professionals as you will find. What they are able to do with the budget that they have and their commitment to quality is something that we should all be very concerned about losing. So I want to commend Joey and the members of staff here and who weren't able to attend on building a station that really is unique. And we know that just from this region, but I can say so that's true, that's true nationally as well. Why don't we go ahead and allow for 20 minutes of public comment as well. I want to ask members of the public to please limit your comments as well to 1 minute. We do have decisions to make here on what action we will take as a council, what the contents of that letter should be if we go that route. Okay. So please come up to the mics and we'll call on you.
My name is Cal Browner. Just briefly, I can't imagine the circumstances that I would under which I would support this proposal, but maybe Mr. Cohen or Mr. Ton could speak a little more about the expenses. Is the station meeting their expenses? It would seem so, and therefore it's really hard to imagine, why that some of the members here. It doesn't make any sense. And if I needed, for some reason, to spin it off, I'd consider, WSU with their Northwest Public Radio. That'd be a much more friendly source from my point of view.
Thank you.
I can. Lowell. Calling our engineer Lowell. I can comment about our budget. The audit, KPLU's audit, will be completed very soon. It's a public document. And what you will see is that our fiscal year that ended May 31st will show that KPLU was in the black approximately $389,000. And that's our best fiscal year. As Stephen said, outside of a capital campaign year, that's our best fiscal year in our history.
Hi, everybody. Christy Lynn Hamilton here. Thank you, everybody, and thank you to all the council members. All 15 of you voted no, that you were against the sale. And I would just recommend that in the letter that you want to write, Stephen, the drafted, credible, forceful letter, that we ask the 438,000 weekly listeners to sign that. I'd like to just summarize what I heard from everybody is that this public due diligence, I think, is a huge issue that needs to be addressed in that letter as well, that nobody was given the opportunity to hear about this sale and that that's our right. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up. that this is part of our local community. These people are family. We are family. This is home for most of us. We're growing our future here. This listener-supported community radio and the commitment to our Northwest resources. And all I'd like to say also is that John Kessler, Ken Wiley, Abe Beeson, Dick Stein, Michael Stein, Paige Hansen, Gabe Spitzer, Mary McCann, Kirsten Kendrick, Cliff Mass, Bellamy Palethorpe, Robin Lloyd, Jim Wilkie, Aaron Hennessy, and whoever else I missed. Thank you.
You know, if you don't mind, I'm sorry to just interject, but since you did a roll call there, could the KPLU staff, would you guys mind just standing up, please?
And I want to make sure Nick Robertson's name gets mentioned. My name is Bill Wolfson, and I just want to say what a privilege it is to stand here in my community supporting KPLU and with all of you. This is what life is about. KPLU is the world, not just to me and my family and all of us, but it's the world of jazz, of blues, of honesty, of relationships, of values, of everything that Pacific Lutheran University really stands for. And I think that's why it's been a good marriage up to this point. It's clear to me that the university is having some difficulties, at least at the regents level and at the presidential level. And thus they've turned to such an outrageous and really dire procedure. $8 million, is that really the problem? No. Because if it is, I'm sure that we as a community can come up with that solutions which will more than fill that need. That's the first thing. Second of all, I think PLU and the regents really need to understand the damage that this action, this potential choice that they're making, will bring to the university itself. It will last forever and for generations. The university really needs to understand maybe they didn't think this through quite so clearly. I could go on, but I just want to reiterate how much of KPLU doesn't bring us the world. They're the world to us.
Lynn Johansson, live in Ballard now. He used to be a greener. And when I was a greener, I used to wake up in the morning and listen to Joey Cohn on the morning and drink my coffee. And I've been a member ever since, and I am going to miss it dreadfully. And I don't know what to do. I have no idea where to go to complain. I don't know what to say, who to say it to. Has PLU Regents voted? I heard no from a professor. I don't know. What do I do? How do I help? Please help us help you. Thank you.
I should say that the PLU Board of Regents did vote for the sale of KPLU, just to let you know that.
Hello, my name is Jane Armstrong, and I'm a longtime supporter of NPR and local stations over my entire adult career, and recently KOW and KPLU, but now only KPLU in the last several years for several reasons. One, this deal has all the appearances and smell of a tower grab, not a programming combinations for the best of both organizations. For $100 a year, I can put Sirius on my radio in my car and my home and get all the NPR and jazz and blues playlists that I want. That's not what I pay, multiples of that, to support these communities. If this was a transition, Joey Cohen would be involved in the front end with Brenda, Mary, Aaron, and the entire professional staff involved with stay bonuses, with offers to make the programming switch to truly build local programming on all these levels. And it's not apparent. What we have is a map of stations and towers. And that's a disservice to this intelligent, committed community that's raised millions for the university, for this station, and for our local interests in news and music. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Cubbins. I'm a long-term donor member of both stations, KUOW and KPLU. So my concern is about the reasons for the PLU selling KPLU. Both the president and vice president of Pacific Lutheran University have said selling KPLU is not about the financial state of the university, that it's in good shape. Yet if you look up the university's bond rating, PLU's finances look bleak. And I read now that PLU is at risk of defaulting on a $55 million loan. So what can you tell us about this? How is this related to the sale?
Thank you.
That's really a question for PLU to answer. So you would just have to direct that towards them.
My name is Janine Blaylock, and I consider myself a KUOW refugee. Thank God KPLU was there to save my life when I had to depart from their terribly dumbed-down programming. I met with a couple of producers at KUOW, and I tried to meet with the news director. I'd been a longtime supporter, volunteer, cheerleader for that station. I loved it, and then it betrayed me. And my pleas fell on deaf ears. I feel totally betrayed that some of the money that I poured into that station is being used to buy my new favorite station. And so I think I'm hoping that this enthusiasm in this room is going to build, and that we build the groundswell that's necessary to save our station. It belongs to us. It's a public good. It's a public treasure. It may be that we have to go to the FCC. We should go to every single level in this decision-making process and let people know that we're not going to give this up. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Dorothy Bostetter. I've been a sustaining member of KPLU for a few years, and also worked in the office doing fundraising, answering the calls years ago. I'm not going to repeat anything that's been said. One thing that I noticed when I compare the programming between KPLU and KUOW, besides all the local programming, is I will miss my best friend ever, which is Terry Gross, because they don't have fresh air on KUOW. I did not see it on the schedule at all. And that would be devastating to me personally. So one thing that Scott mentioned that I'm curious about, you mentioned voting with our dollars for this to fail. My thought is, how are they justifying, or where are they coming up with the $8 million in value if a number of us, I included, I will absolutely not financially support KUOW. There is no way. Unless they maintain everything as it is with, well, I'm not even going to say that because that's not true. I want this station to stay here. It is part of my family.
Vertically challenged. My name is Melissa Westbrook. I'm a longtime public education activist in Seattle. I write a public education blog. I see this disturbing pattern in our city. The HALA committee comes out with these decisions behind closed doors, and this happens, and the school district operates on a very much same kind of pattern, that they make decisions and then they try to feed the public. And that's disturbing to me. On a personal note, I need good public education reporters like Kyle Stokes and formerly Gabriel Spitzer. It means so much. I'll just say, the Times, okay, every 6 months they have a new public education reporter, and I got to try to help that person get up to speed. Kyle and I sat at a nearly 5.5, 6 hour school board meeting the other night. Exhausting. And he stayed there the whole time, very carefully taking notes. So I always say, I want to keep the public in public education, and then I'd like to keep the public in public radio. Thank you.
hold this. My name's Kurt Milton. I know a lot of you people in this room personally. I've been a supporter of KPLU for over 20 years, they tell me, and I was so angry the day I found out about this that I violated a long-standing rule about seeing my name in print, and I volunteered to be quoted in the Seattle Times saying what I thought. I previously worked at the Seattle PI for 13 and a half years, so I know what happens when a news source is lost. What really got me angry was the spokesperson for PLU attempting to turn this back on us by saying that this was our fault for not approaching the university years ago and asking that we buy them out. Nobody ever said anything, and I think that's really what ticks me off about this, that this was not done honorably. The university, so far as I know, never indicated they were unhappy with the arrangement, that there was any reason for us, because I think we could have done it, and I think we could still do it. So I've just been thinking, years ago in Seattle, there was a plan to tear down this Pike Place Market. People fought that. It was said to be a losing battle, but it wasn't. They say there's nothing we can do about this, that it's, you know, the letter of intent is signed. I would hope somebody somewhere would find us a way to take this on, or that the PLU board or someone somewhere would say no. I know a lot of the people at PLU. You are my friends and colleagues in ways in the past. We'll be here for you. Thank you, and thank you to this group.
I just want to speak out for jazz. This is the only place you can get jazz in the Northwest that I know of. Peggy, my name's Peggy. Jazz is a unique and rich American art form. This is art, and we need to save it in the Northwest. And I think that, I mean, I've learned jazz from listening to KPLU for 20 years. Yeah. And new artists come up and I write it down, I go buy the CD. This is a way of improving and enriching our community with an art form that is the root of America, and it's worth saving. We should save it. Thanks, Peggy.
My name is Stephen Wayne. I moved to Seattle in 1975. Shortly thereafter, heard a very faint signal with some great music on the end of it. They were just starting a drive to get a bigger transmitter, I think on the top of Cougar or somewhere on the east side. And since then, it's been love at first sight. I really am struck by the fact that an institution of higher learning is teaching these lessons around public trust, teaching these lessons about public information, teaching the lessons of higher learning, accountability. I don't see any of these factors present in the university's behavior to this point on this matter, and I'd love to hear their defense. Doing open business, and it just has the stink of the Sonics about it. Yeah. So Seattle is a growing community. We see the cranes everywhere. Those are 2 ears in every one of those boxes downtown. There is enough community support, individual wealth in this town to make sure that it stays. Either the University of Washington opens up a completely different branch. They could do it. Washington State could do it. Anyway, a valuable cultural resource can't be lost.
Hi there, my name is Jonathan Richards. I'm a representative of the Blues Foundation, Memphis, Tennessee, as a board member and an active member here in the blues community. Any blues fans in the house? A lot has to be done here, and it can't be solved in one meeting like this, I understand. Blues, the jazz, all the programming that KPLU has brought to this community is vital to keep. It's up to you gentlemen up there to carry that message from this room and make it happen. Thank you.
My name's Eric Steiner. I'm a volunteer with the Washington Blues Society, and I want to commend the council for their bold attempt at speaking truth to power. I've been very fortunate to work with John Kessler. In 2009, the Washington Blues Society nominated Mr. Kessler for the prestigious Keeping the Blues Alive Award. And I'm pleased that no member of the committee voted against Mr. Kessler's nomination, and since then we've received a number of awards, but particularly proud of helping Mr. Kessler and All Blues.
My name is Rock Hushgut. I'd like to see you won Seattle Supersonics and remind people about the sale of a certain law school from Tacoma to an organization in Seattle and speak about losing another South Sound asset. But more importantly, I think we should also put pressure on the regents of the university, because this money, the $8 million sale, were assets donated by the public in support of a specific thing, and they ethically need to continue to use that money to support that thing. That includes the money donated for every capital campaign. The university needs to go to those donors, get the approval for this sale, or return the money. And the money for the sale should be put in an endowment to support the jazz programming that they said that they were going to use the sale for, if the sale goes through. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a question on the announcement that was done on the radio about this meeting. It stated that the Board of Regents is supposed to post online when there's any business having to do with KPLU that's going to be on their agenda. It's supposed to post that. And I was told that they voted on at the October meeting. Was any information about KPLU business posted prior to the Board of Regents October meeting?
No, it was not.
And is that true? Is that the bylaws of the university, or what?
There's when we have, well, you know, see, the reason I'm hesitating to answer that is because there's exceptions to rules, and I just don't know all the details. So I'm going to say it's best to address that with PLU.
Okay, so the Board of Regents, I tried to contact the office of the Board of Regents, but to my surprise, I found out that the Board of Regents, everything runs through the president. So the administration that they're supposed to be overseeing, the board receives all their information through the president's office. This president that's been here 4 years, that has no prior association with the university, doesn't know about the traditions, anything. That's where the information. So that the fact that the Board of Regents almost unanimously voted for the sale doesn't impress me, because everything is filtered through the president's office. Thanks.
Let me address that before you speak.
Sure.
One thing we need to keep in mind is that unlike a lot of other public radio stations, KUOW included, KPLU does not have its own governing board. Its governing board is the Board of Regents of the university. Well, their fiduciary responsibility is to the university, not to this station. So is it any surprise that they see this as an asset rather than as something that they have, a fiduciary responsibility to preserve? But that's just something for us to recognize. I mean, when I was approached about joining this council and serving as its chair, it was in the back of my mind that that a station like this ought to have its own governing body, and it's unfortunate that it does not. And I think it's one of the reasons that we're here today.
My name is John Wolcher. I actually came all the way up here from Tacoma. I've been listening to KPLU since 1984, and it is, like most of the people here, it is a part of my everyday, 7 days a week. It's just a huge thing. It's something we pay for, we support tremendously, and I wrote a letter to Dr. Kreese the night that I found out about the sale at PLU. And interestingly, within 5 minutes, he emailed me back. I think it was on a Friday or a Saturday night. But it was all boilerplate. We're not doing this for money. It was just something that was scripted to kind of send people away. And my feeling about this whole thing at the level of both UW and PLU is that this has been disingenuous at best and dishonest at worst. This is what What KUOW would essentially do to KPLU is, to me, just a smaller version of what Clear Channel has done to commercial radio. They spread it out wider, they dumb it down. At any rate, what I want to say, I do have one quick question. Is it still possible that we can stop this? Because that's my goal, and if that means we ask PLU to give us a year to find alternative funding or whatever, can we stop this and reverse it? Yes. We can. I hope so. Okay, sorry.
Because PLU is a private institution, it has no legal obligation to seek competing offers, right? No obligation under law. So I think the best we can do is to act individually, and the council acting as a body, to appeal to the Board of Regents and the President to reconsider. That is the first step. As I said, there's only been a letter of intent signed, right? The deal has not been finalized. That will happen in the next month, though. So I encourage everyone to speak out in any way that you can to President Christ, to the Board of Regents, to your neighbors, to get involved as well online. If anyone's not seen the comments on the PLU website, I mean, it's amazing, both the volume of them, but the consistency of them in terms of content. Okay. So that's something to do.
And I've been very, very much involved on the web doing those things. So, okay.
Barring that, there is a review period for the FCC to approve this transaction. I am getting educated myself on what the evaluation criteria are for that, if we have to get there. I'm sure the council will be engaged on that level as well if we get to that point.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, last night I called John Kessler and asked him to play Squat That Rabbit by Taj Mahal, and he did. We cannot lose that.
My name is Carol McKinnon, and I agree that we need to focus on specific things that are either breaches of law, contract, standards, or the FCC. And so with regard to the notice that was not given, that the radio station was going to be discussed by the PLU board, my understanding is that that is a contract requirement, and in the contract might be between this committee and the university. But I'm not sure about that, but it's something that I hope the committee will look into, exactly where that requirement comes from. And furthermore, a board of directors of a college does not just take up something and vote on it. It's brought to them, they study it, consider it. Usually there's a subcommittee of a board approved, appointed to investigate. So I think there may be more factual information that might be helpful if people could investigate that a little bit more. And then it might be useful to look into whether there were any breaches of the capital campaign associated with raising the money to build the Martin Neeb Center. And that building is now being left with the college. Of course, the college could say, well, that's part of why the price is, what it is. But if the university is complaining that they give that building for free to the radio station, and therefore it's sort of a drain on their finances and they can better use it other ways, you may be able to shoot some holes in that particular argument, because that building was specifically paid for by the KPLU listeners. And then, anytime there, any of these breaches, you might be able to argue that that it infects or taints the letter of intent. If you can dig up some good dirt here. Who knows about, I don't know anything about the capital campaigns associated with buying repeaters, but I know Paul's in the audience, and I know he negotiated many of those deals, so he's a resource to us, I would hope. And then with respect to the possibility of the community pursuing this and having a community-owned station, I really would encourage serious consideration of that, because if there are 400,000 listeners and everybody gave $10, that's $4 million. If every listener gave $100, you'd have a pie big enough to get PLU's attention, certainly.
Crowdsource.
Yeah.
Yes. Crowdsourcing.
My name is David Merwin. For many years, I was a day sponsor of KUOW and a big fan of the station. And it just seemed like it really began to deteriorate about 5 years ago, right about the same time that I believe there was an article in The Stranger revealing that they had over $1 million in a reserve fund, and they were just piling up more every 6 months with these endless fund drives and the constant obnoxious pandering for more money. I became outraged at the idea of what was supposed to be a nonprofit public station piling up all this cash. I don't understand why. Lady before me said if everybody put up $10, it'd be $4 million. Well, if everybody put up $20, it'd be $8 million. That's the sales price. Why take in more money than you need when it's a nonprofit? So let's raise the money publicly and keep KPLU, which we all love. As the young people would say, because Kessler.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and I humbly come before you as a spouse of a Special Forces military member. And KPLU has been there for me for a decade of many sleepless nights. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Hi, my name is Gilbert Wong, and I also used to listen to KUOW, but 20-some years ago I found KPLU and then never gone back. And my family members come and go, but there's always KPLU over all these years. And it is a family member, and when I heard about it, it's like somebody ripped my members out of my life, so it really hurts deeply. And I love jazz, but what makes jazz at KPLU special is the on-air talent. You know, they're speaking to me. All the little sound bites, make it so fun and all that. And also the news inform me and educate me. Like the sound effects, the stories, just every week just touch me personally deeply. So I have a question. I don't know. It's I wonder if it's an opportunity even to get whatever number you name or call number you're going to be at. Get ourselves out of KUOW or KPLU and have our own station. I don't know if that's the thing to do or not. And thank you all, and I hope we can keep the station, and it's really is important to me personally and to the community, I think. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kathy Cummings, and I, like you, sit on as a volunteer on the Community Advisory Board, but of this time of KCTS. I also serve on the national board of the Association for Public Television Stations, the lobbying and communication arm for all of public television. I rise to remind everybody that there are first two types of licenses. There's the community license and the university license. This, of course, falls under the university license, but they still have the same mission. And the three-tiered stool of public television's mission is education, civic leadership, and public safety. We're watching things happen in our community with our public television and our public radio. The voice is disappearing. We need their voices. Every other television station, at least in the Puget Sound, I believe in Washington at this point, is corporate owned. We need this service. We need to continue, especially the public safety. It's on the airwaves. This is a conduit to all the people, Civic education, like, do we need that? This and the news that's produced by these people is unbelievable. And I'm really proud of the community that showed up here today in the middle of a day on a Monday, you know. But I do hope that all our voices help you all and help KPLU understand that we need this in our community.
My name is Ed Maloney, representing Highway 99 Blues Club. We want to thank all of you guys, obviously. The community, as we can feel it right now, there's a lot of outrage and there's a lot of anger. As we're all feeling in this room and those folks that couldn't be here. I guess it's our job now to support you through turning that outrage and anger into some form of, you know, positive energy that we can do whatever you need. So communicate to us what we need. On behalf of the music community, this is a huge blow. It could be a huge blow to us, you know, with the real estate boom that's been going on in Seattle and the cost of living. It's become very difficult for musicians to work and live in the city. It's become very difficult for music venues that are at risk. You know, we were almost there a minute ago, but that's not what I'm talking about. But the music venues are not continuing to open and expand, and you know, we talk about the fiber of the community. You know, all of us music fans and the various forms of music, specifically for this room, we're talking about jazz, American music, jazz and blues. We go to your station, and your station has been the station that has tied our whole community together. And it's because of it's because of your DJs. It's because of your on-air personalities. And not to put any one of your DJs or staff in front of the other, but John Kessler. I mean, I think one of you folks talked about this expanding or turning into doing more with the format. You can't do that if you take away the personality. You can't. You get the best blues DJ in the country right now in John Kessler, and you know, and that's a fact. It's not. That's emotional and personal, but that's a fact. It's not because he's won so many awards. It's because you talk about community. He's on the air. He's connecting with his audience. He's doing the most he can with what he's allowed to do on that station in the air. But he's in the neighborhoods. He's in the clubs. He's supporting the music. He's talking to the music fans and his listeners and his fans in the venues. And he's on a stage in the venues, and he's playing music, and he's pouring that music off of the stage. And then he's back in the studio, and he's doing it again all week long. And that is one example of what makes KPLU so important to the community. So we hope that we can all take our anger, our outrage, and our frustration and turn it into some sort of positive energy for you guys. And I think we all want to thank you and wish you the best as you go through this, because we couldn't for 1 minute imagine the emotion and the passion that you guys are feeling if we're feeling this on this side of the room. So thank you guys very much.
As I mentioned at the outset of the meeting, we have some business to conduct here. I want to take 3 more comments. Please limit your comments to 1 minute. I am getting some emails from people who apparently were not able to dial in. I've got one here. I'll summarize that person's vote and comments when we're done with public comments. And for all those members of the public who are on the phone as well, we've gotten lots of online comments. All of those will be forwarded to us as a council, and they will be considered. So thank you all on the phone for participating. Okay, please.
I'll make my comments short and sweet, I hope. I'm going to piggyback off of the lady over here that was on the board, or I think our advisory board maybe for KCTS. I'm an employee of KCTS. And John DeGraff, wonderful man, producer, Take Back Your Time. He was at KCTS. He no longer has an office there. This last summer, I witnessed 11 people be escorted off. We have an empty now studio. We do not have a production at all in our studio. And these people had been at the station doing productions for 38, 39, 40 years, and you walk into their space, it was all Emmys. Okay, at the very same time that I had my first contact with KPLU, it was in a bookstore in Tacoma, women-run bookstore, and Pearl Django was there. Nick Morrison introduced us to him. Later on, within a year, Pearl Django played at our daughter's wedding. We were connected then. It's interesting, though, that I had just graduated from PLU at that time. And so I've always felt that when it comes to KPLU, they're part of my family. I know Nick, I know different connections. My niece was an intern there for years. But now back to KCTS. This is where I have to say what I have to say, and that is that a lot of change. Everything's digital. No education department. Outreach is limited to the major donors. You really need to concentrate on this, that this is your public organization. You are involved with it. Do not be complacent, because that's what we have had, is a lot of complacency. I don't know anybody at the station anymore, really very many anyway. Everything is digital, so much is digital. Things like the Golden Apple Award is now, you'll be direct, it'll be little spots, not an evening dedicated to it. So I probably now have just lost my job. Please don't say this. But anyway, I have.
I bet you get another one.
No, I'm retiring. Anyway, I just think it's really important for you to know that there's a change in the air, and bigger is better, transmission powers, selling a spectrum. I've heard a variety of different things, and I really think that if you want something to happen, you're going to have to get behind it and make a big, huge noise. Yeah. And by the way, John DeGraff's wife, Paula Whistle, they both, I guess, now don't have jobs. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Willett. I really just have a question, and it goes to what she just said. It feels like there's a lot of organizing to be done, and my question is the station in any way constrained on what you guys can say on the air about this deal? And if so, how can we go around that?
Seems so. Thank you.
I'll speak to that because I don't want to make Joey answer an uncomfortable question. Joey and his team are employees of Pacific Lutheran University. So they're in a tough spot here today, fielding comments, to a certain extent, providing information. But we all have to be aware of the limitations they have. Okay, please.
Brian Estes, longtime KPLU listener. I just want to mention, if some of you have not yet seen Cliff Mass's blog today, he's very much against this, and he lists a number of very persuasive reasons why this shouldn't go through, as well as a lot of contact information about the PLU board. So check that out. And secondly, I'm a UW alumni, and I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that it's UW Regents who are approving the sale of this too. And we, as an alumni, I plan on getting in touch with them. Cliff has a bunch of emails there for the president of the Board of Regents. And we should ask them to consider the impact on the alumni sponsorship and donation to the university if they go through with this as well. So I just want to throw those things out for your consideration, and thank you so much for having this session this afternoon. Thank you.
I'm going to allow
one more quick comment. Just if we can buy our own frequency, and I'm wondering, John Kessler, if KBLU is taken as call letters.
I'm going to allow room for one more comment. I'm going to call Erin Hennessy, KPLU's news director.
Thank you so much. I'm Erin Hennessy. I'm the news director. And I want to take a couple of minutes to highlight what we've achieved under Joey Cohn's leadership. KPLU has the 12th largest public radio audience in the country, and it has grown tremendously over the years. Joey also had the foresight to establish an online all-jazz station, and Jazz 24's audience is growing. Under Joey's leadership, we've increased live performances from our Seattle studios, bringing in more local, international, and national acts. The videos of our studio sessions have also had more than 6 million views on KPLU's YouTube channel. Under Joey's leadership, KPLU School of Jazz has grown and is now nationally recognized as a premier music education outreach program. Our All Blues program is thriving. It's won prestigious awards and has a strong fan base. And KPLU News has become an award-winning leader in the public radio system, filing local and national stories that add to our civic conversation. Joey has made it possible to develop and air KPLU weekly features such as Food for Thought, Going Places, Weather with Cliff Mass, and Bird Note. And under his leadership this year, we added an hour of original content with our new show, Sound Effect. Yeah. Sound Effect is an audio tour of the place we live, inspired by the people we live with. So on behalf of myself and the entire KPLU staff, thank you, Joey, for your tireless efforts to help all of us make this station something to be damn proud of.
You guys are just glad the Seahawks won. That's all. You know, thank you, Aaron. So many people have applied at KPLU because of Erin Hennessy. I mean, she's like a recruiting tool. I mean, I'm serious. And, you know, what I tell people is what Erin's created in our newsroom is a healthy environment. Because I think there's a lot of places where you can work and the environment isn't such. But that's the nice thing. I think Erin has done such a tremendous job. Also, I just want to, again, recognize the entire KPLU staff because honestly, the saddest thing for me in all this is seeing the team not continue because they are an exceptional group of people. Thank you.
Okay. Unfortunately, I am getting some word that a couple people, I don't know how many, on the council were not able to dial in. They were able to speak to each other, but not to us. I've heard from one, DT Rosenoff. I'm going to register DT's vote on the proposal that I made earlier. I'm opposed to the merger of KPLU and KUOW for the following reasons. No public valuation shared. Newish state-of-the-art studios, unparalleled jazz library, international listening audience, influence beyond the Pacific Northwest, independent news source, value of translators and repeaters. DT asks, how was the price and buyer selected? Makes the point that KUOW does not have the same broadcast footprint as KPLU. I live in southeast King County and physically cannot receive KUOW. So let's register DT's opposition to the sale as well. I don't want to now move to the discussion piece, and this is going to be a little awkward since, again, this was intended to be a council meeting, and we usually speak to each other. But a lot of opinions been expressed today, and again, in my mind, at least very consistent with what I've heard from others and opinions shared by the council. As I mentioned, I have started on a letter. I want to hear from council, and we'll call a roll of council members on a vote to send a letter to President Kreis and the Board of Regents expressing consternation about this proposal and requesting reconsideration. Joey.
I'm in support of that and also would like to understand at what point we weigh in with the FCC.
I'm in support of the preparation of the letter, but would also like to look at some of the other options that have been raised here today.
I'm in support of the letter, and I would like to request that we send it simultaneously to the Board of Regents at University of Washington.
I'm in support of the letter, of course. I hope we can have perhaps another time, another meeting on the schedule to organize our forces, since we only have limited ability to do so today.
Let me speak to that. I don't believe that's going to be possible. We've got a December 18th deadline for the transaction, so it's really imperative that we get a letter out as soon as possible.
I'm in support of the letter and would like to know, as not a employee of KPLU or PLU, I'm assuming even though I'm a board member, I can say whatever I darn well want in the public?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes. None of what I'm suggesting, a letter from this body, from this advisory council, precludes any of us from speaking individually, either verbally or in writing, to whoever we want.
I too support the letter and have a big mouth.
I definitely support the letter and am also interested in exploring other options.
I'm in favor of the letter as the first step.
I agree with the letter.
I also agree with the letter, and incidentally, I was late, and I would like my vote to be recorded in as opposition to the sale. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I support any and all letters, social media, change.org, etc.
I'm just checking to see if there are any votes online.
Stephen? Lloyd Milden?
Lloyd Milden supports the letter.
Carrie Retland supports the letter as well. And it looks like that's it so far.
Okay, thank you. Could you let me know if people register? Okay, I want to turn our attention, JJ.
I'm just asking exactly what action is this letter asking for? I'm just wondering exactly what action our letter is going to be requesting and what form it will take, and we're asking them to reconsider. Do we have information to know how specific that can be? It seems to me if we are writing a letter wanting some action, that it would behoove us to be as specific as possible. Are we asking perhaps for a meeting with this council and the Board of Regents? Are we asking, just to ask to reconsider, I think is too vague. That's my opinion.
Okay. You know, we need to recognize our limited authority as an advisory council. Okay. I think expressing, it won't just be a letter simply requesting reconsideration. It will be a statement, much of what we've heard in the room today, about the reasons for concern, about the council's consensus of opinion, about why this seems like a bad idea, or why we believe or have concluded it's a bad idea, and asking for reconsideration. I don't think we have much grounds to ask for much more than that. You know, that's what ultimately we are seeking, is for them to think again about whether this serves the KPLU listenership, the regional public radio audience, and public media generally. That's what I want them to think about again.
I think another thing we should ask them is this: is this really in the best interest of Pacific Lutheran University? Mm-hmm. And does it fulfill their vision, what they look at as their mission in the community to do this? But quite frankly, financially, is it in their best interest? The other thing, I'm wondering, you know, you look at this, and when this happened, is it a coincidence that it happened just after the fund drive? Huh? I mean, is there something else? We were just blindsided so bad by this. And I'd like us to consider the letter and to be nice, be positive, everything in the best interest of Pacific Lutheran University, but also, when we take this step, we should also consider what are the alternatives if there's a downside. What kind of organization can we build up to support Joey and the staff and an alternative for this and when it happens. And do we need to get legal counsel?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, we can, go ahead, Joey. Well, we can ask for time. I have no reason, based on what I've heard so far, to think that that would be taken seriously, you know. And one thing we need to consider is some finality here is in the interests of Joey and his staff. You know, this is a very uncertain time for them. So, anyway, do you want to speak to that?
I mean, I don't have anything to add at this time. I think the sooner everyone makes their opinions known, the better.
There's been a lot of talk in the room about alternative buyers. Crowdsourcing has been one of them, and owning the station outright independently, or looking for another university or another parent organization. I don't know how that could be addressed in the letter, but have the regents considered other buyers, including independent ownership of the station, and would that be perhaps in better interest because there might be more money in it, or? Do you understand? Did I make my point clear?
I do. As I said before, you know, one thing we need to recognize, as a private institution, PLU has no obligation to seek out competing offers. When I'm suggesting that we ask for reconsideration, it is reconsideration as in consider other alternatives, right? What those are, we can leave up to them. I think it's a little beyond our role and even our basis of knowledge to understand which ones of those alternatives actually make sense for the university. Okay, I'm going to take one more comment, but please, we do have business to attend to.
I will be very quick. Be nice to see what kind of coverage this gets in the various media that's here today. I hope it won't be beyond KPLU's capacity to report. I wonder if anybody's here from KUW or from any of the news media that's left here. It seems to me that you're in a perfect position to ask them not to reconsider, but to reverse this decision. That takes care of Joey's staff, it takes care of things. I don't know how they came to it. I worked for a lot of governors in my career, and I can't imagine being blindsided like this in the public sector. Private sector, they screw you over without, with complete impunity, and you're out the door. This isn't what we expect of our flagship university in this state, in my opinion. And I'm a PLU alum. I certainly am surprised, and I must say significantly disappointed that this is the way this business got conducted. This is an awful kick in the teeth to a good staff, to a great station, and to a community that's really, I think, much richer for having had the diversity of two good radio stations. That's all I've got to say. Time to man up and tell them, don't just think about this, undo it, and then get on with finding business. You won't get a second chance. If you string it out for a year, you'll watch your good people slowly drift away. It's like a merger. This isn't a merger, it's a bad buyout. So, my 2 cents, sorry. Hope it was short enough.
All right, let me open it up to the council again. Any other comments, concerns about the plan going forward?
I am echoing this last speaker. I really feel like a request to reconsider is vague and doesn't require any action on the part. Not that we can force any action. I know we don't have the authority and all that sort, but if we don't make a forceful request,
it will be forceful.
Okay.
It will be forceful.
All right, so maybe we all need to just see a draft and then we can comment to a draft. How does
Let
that
me address
sound?
that as well. You know, one thing I do not want to do is get all tied up in wordsmithing a letter. You know, we have a short period of time. I've taken a lot of notes. Like I said, I started in on a letter already. I want to authorize one person to write that letter. It can be me, I've started it, or it can be somebody else. But I don't want to circulate it and get 30 red lines back and have to wordsmith this. It's going to take 2 weeks, and a decision might be made in the meantime.
I get that, totally get that. How about a synopsis with bullet points of
Absolutely.
the issues to be covered,
Absolutely.
and then we can would respond to that.
I will keep the council informed of what the contents and principles of the letter are.
Okay.
Any other comments or concerns?
I just wanted to say that it's been great having everyone out here, but if you care about this as much as we do, write to everyone, email, send physical letters. Everyone in this room should be writing to somebody and letting them know. It's great that you've come and said here. Yes, ma'am.
Could you go to the microphone, please?
We circulated a list of people who were in attendance, asking them to say their name and their email address. Those are with one of your staff back there. Please let us know, or, you know, add, maybe we can individually attach our names to your letter. However we can help, we're here. Thank you.
No, I think that you could be asking to reconsider and say that the public who you are representing demands that it be rejected as sort of a compromise.
So
Scott.
do you need a motion?
Please.
Okay. I'd move that, you know, Stephen would draft the talking points. I think there were some great points that were brought up here today, and I know Stephen well enough to know he took copious notes of those. That'll make good fodder. I agree, though, with what Sean said. Let's all write our own damn letters.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. In terms of the contents of the letter, I do want to make sure that we don't say anything that someone has a concern about. So in terms of concerns that were expressed either by council members today or the public, does anyone have some heartburn about any of that being in the letter? I'm not saying that my letter is going to address every single one of those concerns raised, but I have a strong sense of what I think is meaningful, what I think might hold sway with the administration. But anything that was expressed today that people are uncomfortable with in terms of taking a stance as a body. Okay. I'll tell you one thing that I am inclined not to do is call out specific programs. You know, I think pointing to the quality of the programming overall. But one thing that is true about this station, as you know, as is true for most public radio stations, we all have our favorites, and I think calling out any one of them is kind of a disservice to the rest. So I think when you're speaking as a group, which is my intention here, it will point to Joey and his team's efforts to make this across the board as strong a program quality as possible. Okay. All right, any other business that the council feels needed to be taken up? Okay, we do not have a meeting scheduled to next year. Okay. The question is whether we will have a meeting next year. I don't know. You know, I think one thing that I might want to do is after the letter goes out, my goal is to have this written in the next day or two. Okay. My goal maybe will be to have us convene by phone sometime in January. For that, for what purpose? Well, I think we can...
I think we need to consider alternatives
Sure.
of what going forward in the future.
Yeah, that's fine. I think to the extent that any member of the council has an idea about how else to get involved or how else to put pressure on decision makers, let's share those via email. We all have each other's email addresses. I don't know that a meeting is necessary to do that. If we come across an idea that we feel is worthwhile, maybe we can convene a special meeting on very short notice. But there are public notice requirements for that as well. You know, it just becomes very complicated. It's a large body, and we've had difficulty even scheduling quarterly meetings, let alone on short notice.
Will your letter be posted so we can all read it?
I haven't decided that yet. I mean, let's talk about that. That's actually my next question. My thought, I know there is press in the room today. Obviously, they've heard everything that's been discussed, so the contents of the letter might not come as a huge surprise to anyone. But I do think there is a benefit in providing that as a statement of this council. Again, it is the one body that has input into this decision. And so even though our role and our responsibilities are limited, I think that might carry some weight. Anyone opposed to that? Okay, JJ.
Talk really loud. Is there any option or restriction, Joey, on members of the council reading the letter aloud on the station? We're not employees of the university, but there might be restrictions on content of what can be broadcast. I would read it.
Good question. I really don't know the answer to that.
So we can at least publish the letter on the website or not? Because that's owned by the university too. My question is, if we're going to make it public, we can, of course, use media, but we're talking about a media outlet that we're trying to save. Can we use that media to save that medium?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. We'll look into that.
I think that a public petition and the letter from the board are two separate items, and I would like to have a public petition posted where, I'm not sure through a crowdsourcing site or from the KPLU website, but I would like to be able to, for the board to author a public petition.
There are petitions already circulating at change.org. You know, one of them, unfortunately, is aimed at Joey, and I hope everyone understands that he was not certainly the architect of this transaction. But there are petitions already out there. But they're not under our But I, you know, again, one of those things. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that. Post a petition challenging the Board of Regents' decision on their own website.
You know, PLU is a private university, but the University of Washington is public, and the University of Washington is dependent upon the state legislature to help fund it. You might all want to contact your state legislators and tell them how upset you are with the underhanded tactics of the regents of the board of the University of Washington.
All right, any other matters? Oh, please.
I had jotted down about December 18th. Can you confirm exactly what is happening with the Board of Regents on December 18th?
Nothing's happening on that day. That is the deadline stated in the letter of intent between PLU and the University of Washington for them to consummate this transaction, to sign a deal. So it can happen anytime before that. Once that expires, it doesn't mean it's dead necessarily. They can sign another letter of intent. But for now, that is the deadline for them to act on the letter of intent that has been signed. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else. Okay. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to Stephen Tan. Thank you to the council.